Thank you all so much for coming out on this wonderfully dreary night. I just wanted to quickly also just thank Rachel, Carol, and Joel, all from the library and from the Public Arts Program, for making all of this possible for us tonight. So thank you so much for choosing me and for hosting me. I am Lydia. I am a local artist in Urbana. I am an illustrator and wood carving artist. The work that I make is on composite wood board, and I hand carve in all my line work with printmaking tools, just like your typical V-gouge printmaking tool. I paint the whole thing with a black acrylic paint to darken the surface, and then I apply color with colored pencil. And that is the magic behind the art that I'm going to show you tonight. So I'm just going to show you some examples of that in my presentation. I've been in Urbana for about 3 years, and I've been lucky enough to participate in a lot of the local arts programs that we have here, including the MTD, the CSA, and Sky Gallery through 40 North's programs. But the Artist of the Corridor was an especially fun experience for me to be a part of, because it gave me a chance to look back over the work that I've been making for the last 3 years and really think about what exactly have I been doing. So it basically came down to about 5 themes in my work that I talk about, so I'm just going to quickly hit on these tonight and tell you about what I do. I'm very inspired by tattoo art, stained glass art, and folk tales and storybook art. So that is kind of where my style originates from, is an amalgam of all of those things together. When I was a young person, I was horrified by ghosts. The thought of the existence of ghosts, I couldn't enjoy any ghost stories or anything like that when I was a kid. I never was desensitized to it, and it scared the pants off me. So as an adult, it's been a really fun thing to finally be able to look at that part of life and enjoy the hilariousness of everyday objects being possessed by who knows what type of silly spirit in my head. So I do a lot of things about food and the kitchen with ghosts. And I started to become really emotionally invested in the ghosts, and I ended up taking pity on them. So as you can see, the ghosts ended up being afraid of things being haunted as well, which is probably a little bit about myself, but I'm a little bit of a scaredy pants in general. So I think it's also a reminder that as humans, we all live with the idea of death and dying, so it's therapeutic to think about and live with. I'm also really influenced by everyday domestic life in my work. I don't make things to be hung in galleries. I make them to be hung in people's homes. So what better topic within the work than the everyday scenes that we see in our houses, and just making them a little bit more fantastical, I guess. So I often depict bathroom scenes, bedroom scenes, the kitchen, just basic everyday life. My mom stayed home with us when we were kids, so I have an appreciation for all parts of domestic life. This is probably some of my most favorite art that I've made, is all about the plants. When I was young, my first plant I ever took care of was a cactus with googly eyes and a Santa hat glued onto it. And my grandparents had brought it home for me from a vacation trip. There's nothing sadder than a plant with eyeballs dying on you as it shrivels and those eyes just keep looking at you. So that's one of the most common questions I get asked about my art is, what's with the eyeballs? And with the plants, it's just a way for me to express that they're an alive thing to me. They're not a disposable item, and they are, okay, I don't know if they're sentient, but I kind of think they are, and I like to assign personalities and things to them. So that's what's with the eyeballs. It's just a way to show that they're alive. Another big influence in my life has been my parents' fascination with old wives' tales, and folk wisdom, which was basically what I would say is the closest thing to religion that we had growing up. My parents were not religious, but boy, if you had itchy palm, money's coming. That was apparently a thing, and they still say it. Ooh, right ear's ringing, bad luck's on the way. So I've become pretty fascinated with those things, and they tend to lose their magic when you learn the origin of them. For example, the walking under a ladder is bad luck because it breaks the Holy Trinity. And I was like, ah, well, that's kind of an unceremonious end to that story for me. So I started making my own, and sometimes I kind of believe them. So I tend to use old adages. This is a watched plant never grows, like a watched pot never boils. And obviously you should never trust traveling skeleton salespeople, as they will steal your bones and try to sell them back to you. Fact. What? Pigs! So, as opposed to a lot of young people, I discovered guinea pigs when I was 33 years old. I was aware of their existence, but didn't pay them much mind until I adopted 2 boys. I'm obviously a Harry Potter fan. I'm a Hufflepuff. This is Sirius and Neville were adopted as a bonded pair from a humane society and hated each other. And we're not a bonded pair. Enter Tonks and Luna. So we now have 4 guinea pigs in the house. And as soon as I brought them home, I was immediately starting to draw them, and they became a part of my life so quickly. To guinea pig enthusiasts, they look like little potatoes. So I began to create a hybrid backstory for them that they are part plant and part animal. They are possibly a tuberous vegetable that can be propagated. They're possibly your furry little friends. So they started popping up everywhere. This one wishes it was a capybara. And as you can see, this is how pigs are propagated. Once underground and they get growing from the root systems, they really take off. One thing to really be aware of is to not plant them next to carrots, as that will destroy your entire root crop. Fact. Thank you for laughing, Jill Miller. You are making me feel so comfortable. So I brought some of my art to share with you if you want to take a closer look at it, if you want to ask me questions, if you just want to pet my pigs. That's totally fine too. Thank you for having me. Here comes Neville. Oh, isn't he the cutest thing you ever seen in your whole life? So yeah, this is my buddy. They have a whole bedroom to themselves at our house, just so everyone knows how much I love these pigs. They live on fleece bedding. They eat organic vegetables. It's pretty ridiculous. We're gonna go in the poorhouse, but they're so sweet. So yeah, if anybody has anything they want to chime in or not, that's totally fine. The boys are a mystery. The vet guessed 2 years old when we adopted them, so they would be about almost 4 now. So we had them almost a year and a half or so. So, and the girls are young. The girls are little youngins. They're about a year old. 4 to 6 years. So there have been many, many guinea pigs that have lived 8 to 10 years. So hopefully with good care, these guys will live a really, really long life too. They're stinking delightful and absolutely my spirit animal. They get so excited about food. They don't like to exercise. They're pretty much my model citizens. I practice so that, obviously, I practice so that they will recognize me and we can have conversations. But they all sing for their breakfast every morning, which is my favorite part of the day, is waking up and hearing everybody. We are currently building them an outdoor garden, just so everyone's clear too. They're going to have a little roaming vegetable patch to enjoy this spring, because, you know, inside isn't enough, right? Everybody wants to be outside. My dog, I have a dog named Lou, and she hates them so much. And I don't mean aggressively, I mean she's jealous. She is so sad whenever I talk about them. She can tell if I'm talking about them, and she just gets real. Like an older sister who wants the attention. Yeah, it's a very sad thing for her. So she gets hot dog bits to make her feel better. Yes, Carol? I think that's a pretty great metaphor for life in general, if I may. But yeah, I like to find the humor in situations, definitely. But I do think we all, you know, kind of need reminders of the seriousness of life so you can appreciate it while it's happening and not look back on things. So I think that's generally what I focus on when I'm creating. Jacqueline? Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't know if anyone would find it interesting. I've been making things, of course, my entire life. As a kid, I've always been a storyteller, and I used to make different drawings of my troll dolls for my mom and those kind of things that would tell stories. I went to college for art. I went to Northern Illinois University, got a bachelor's in arts, and I worked at garden centers then for about 9 years. And finally then made the full-time plunge into art after that. But I had been drawing and making. Originally, these pieces had removable brooches on them. I did metalwork for some time, but it was just not feasible really with my studio space, and I delved more into the illustrative side, which I've really, really enjoyed doing, and kind of leaned into the fact that I'm not necessarily the most realistic drawer in the world. I'd never have let that stop me. I had a great professor in college that basically gave me that advice. And he said, why are you trying to do something that you know you're not that great at? Let her rip. And this is kind of what happened out of it, and allowed myself to find importance in the things that I do think are important rather than what I should be doing. Yes, that was the all-seeing ham. As we know, so I kind of like the story of the evil eye. You know, there's all-seeing different things in different cultures around the world. So I think it's really, really funny to adapt that to something as innocuous as a ham. Also, my dog Lou loves ham more than life itself. So it shows up in my art frequently. I have a piece, I actually didn't include it in the slides, that's called When I Die, I'll Haunt Your Hams. And it's a picture of my dog being a ghost coming out of a ham and gracing me with her presence in the afterlife, whatever it is. So I guess that's just another bit of silliness that I enjoy. I like to elevate things that maybe are typically silliness or not healthy for you. Hams. This is the biggest piece I've done. Liza? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This is something I'm creating for Boneyard, which actually is going to be displayed here at the library in the case upstairs starting tomorrow night, if I finish it. It is going to have 72 guinea pigs on it, and it's going to be called Dream House. My dear graphic designer friend and I worked together on digitizing some of my illustrations to create a wallpaper background. So this is going to be hanging on some beautiful Liza Wynette carrot wallpaper. But typically I do work smaller, again thinking about like spaces in a home. and being able to sneak something into the bathroom to hang, those little nooks and crannies where I love the idea that your kids are going to see that work and it's going to become a part of the mythology that they grow up with, which feels really stinking magical to me. So the fact that anyone wants to hang any of this weirdness in their house makes me so happy. Best full-time job ever. I have an online store, but I do lots of pop-up shops and shows around the community. For Boneyard, I will be up at Lincoln Bookbindery for a one-day on the Saturday with my good friend Tedra Ashley Wannemuller. She's a bookbinder and will also be sharing the other half of the case here at the library with her work. So I'll be there. I do shows all around the state. Basically, I don't try not to get too far away, but and what's your website? Just my name, lydiapuddicombe.com. And yeah, we're lucky to have people in this community that can put together shows and do things. I'm not going to point them out because they're going to get too embarrassed, but we have one of the best people ever in this room. And yeah, she's back there. The most incredible people. So that's really, I'm grateful to be able to sell at all these things because of folks like that we have. That's a great question. I'd like to add dimension. I'd like to add depth and have a diorama feel to what I'm doing. I'd like to work bigger so that you have a whole house to look at. You can let your imagination travel through the rooms, and whatever plants and animals I adopt, that's where my work's headed because it's just what I'm surrounded with daily. So.
Any other questions for Lydia?
I think we should get to crafting.
Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Lydia's work is really cool, and it reflects on her and how she feels about guinea pigs. And it's really cool how all her main focus is like on her guinea pigs, but some of the focus is on like plants and ideal stuff. And it's really cool how she puts her work into all the things that she does. And it's really cool how she did like with the plants, how like they're like human, but they have a plant side to them. Like with the guinea pigs, they have like a breed with, and they have tails of leaves, and it's just really cool how she does her work, and I think that she really impressed me. My favorite is probably the one with the dog.
Why is that one your favorite?
And how like the dog's just drooling at the hams, and I feel like the dog's like, oh my god, those hams look so delicious. But yeah, that's the scope on what I think about them. I think it impressed me, and it made me feel like she had like this cool side, but it wasn't like cool, it was like nice, it was like chill.
Lydia's work is amazing. It's, as she said, it's both deep and light. We have 4 different pieces of hers at home. One's a panel that actually has 5 pieces. So if you count them like that, there's 9. But we met at a show we were at about a year and a half ago and just loved her work. And her work is so reflective of her personality that it's impossible to separate the two. So whenever we see a piece of her work at home, we like, oh, it's like Lydia's in the house with us. So she also haunts her work, as do the ghosts. What do you think?
Her work is colorful and lively. It inspires discussion, and it's infectious, and just like Lydia.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.